Hi guys, welcome to this upload for you guys here on Open My Night. But it's night time somewhere around this world, that may be. But I just want to say to everyone of you guys, thank you ever so much for you guys hitting that subscribe button, hit that bell icon. By the way, did I mention I've gone up to 16 subscribers yet? Nope, I've gone up to 16 subscribers, yes. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you'll be in and updated anytime when I do any videos for you guys, even if it's wrestling reviews or anything. Or alternatively as well, you can check out my social media via the link tree down below. Now, I just want to say to everyone of you guys is that wrestling's red hot at the moment. Red hot at the moment, and I'm loving every moment of it. You know, and that's just me being honest. Even if I don't like certain things, what happens in WWE, if I don't like something in AEW, I still love it because I keep coming back to it. End of the day, I'd rather invest my time to talk about professional wrestling as well as watch professional wrestling when I've got spare time. And at the moment, I've got plenty of spare time at my hands. I'm unemployed at the moment. I'm not after any sympathy whatsoever, but I'm hoping to get a job very, very soon. You know, it's took me near enough over a year to find something new. You know, and that is saying something. I know it's a massive achievement because of how the job market is. But I'm not here to talk about the job market and my personal life. I'm here about professional wrestling. What we enjoy about professional wrestling. Now, I just want to say to everyone of you guys is, when I criticize WWE for what they do at times, that's just me giving my opinion. Right? If I criticize AEW, I criticize AEW. You know, but still go back to watch it. You know, but end of the day, right? I love to watch wrestling as much as I can. You know, it's annoying when it comes to a Saturday or a Sunday when I can't sleep at night. By default, by a wrestling fan's fault, you know, I'm normally up till 6 in the morning. I'll be honest with you. Hands up till 6 in the morning, right? Not because I'm just thinking of content to do. Just to find wrestling to try and watch. You know, if there's no pay-per-view or PLE that I already watch. I want to check out other companies. You know, I keep doing it. You know, and it's annoying when I do it. The reason why I say it's annoying when I do it is because my body's been like that for many, many years now. You know, when it comes to the weekends. Because I used to work the weekends. There's a bit of ASMR there for you. If you're into that, stay away from my platform. But I digress on that. What I want to say to every one of you guys is that I used to work weekends. And I used to work long hours at night times. I used to do the nightclub scene many, many years ago. And obviously watching wrestling was a blessing in disguise. And I just want to say to every one of you guys at home that are watching me right now that I enjoy wrestling for what it is. The good times and the bad times. The good, the bad, and the ugly, as the old saying goes. And I just enjoy it. You know, because at the end of the day, I enjoy what I enjoy. You enjoy what you see the perspective of professional wrestling. You don't literally... The thing is, I'm not one of these people technically disagreeing with people's opinion. I'm just voicing my opinion to settle my opinion, you know, because that's what wrestling's all about. You know, because if everyone thought the same of professional wrestling, you really think you'd be subscribing to me now, like the 16 people that have hit that subscribe button? No, you wouldn't. Because you would get bored to seeing the same old shit over and over and over and over again. You know, because at the end of the day, I try and entertain people as much as I can with my wrestling fandom because I enjoy talking about professional wrestling. And I tell you one thing, it's really nice when I get feedback from people, from my peers that I looked up to when I looked up in the IWC. But when I first started, they literally says my stuff's improved, everything. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I'm shooting in literally point and pressing and shooting like a video, don't get me wrong, but when people say my camera presence improved, my lighting's improved, my video quality's improved, my editing's improved. You know, because I'm learning a skill to adapt to basically bring you guys towards different entities. Obviously, my wrestling vlogs. I know they're few and far between, but I put my heart and soul into those. Because it's end of the day, it's not to brag. It's just to share my experience with you. And that's why I'm looking forward to Forbidden Door. I'm working on the soundtrack as we speak for that very vlog. I'm really looking forward to bringing you the final product, obviously, towards the likes of September. But because when the date is, it's late August 2025. So I'm hoping to have that out within 48 hours of Forbidden Door. Now, whilst I'm on the equation to talk about AEW, I feel like at the moment, AEW has been really good booked. Really good shows. It can deliver in the 2 hours. I'm going to be interested to see what they do in the summer blockbuster when they move that to 4 hours. Yeah, there's a 4 hour. I think that's a PLE, pay-per-view, sorry. I'm not sure. I think it's like a 4 hour Dynamite, or is it something on those lines? I do like the free reviews, as you might want to call them as. But I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you this much for free. That I feel like AEW can literally revive itself from the mistakes they've made over the years. Minus the collision thing that people are talking about, hindering them. They just want to nitpick. Say, oh my god, it fucked up on this, fucked up on the stream. Nah, I just want to say this. Accidents happen, WWE's done it, I think it was on a Batista match back in the day. When it was on a pay-per-view, they just randomly cut the ending. So, no one's perfect. To say everyone looks to WWE as the be-all and all, be-and-e-end-all and all-end-all, or however you say it. They look to that company and thinking, okay, fair enough. Yeah, they may be the GOATs of professional wrestling, but at the moment I feel like AEW can capitalize on a lot of their mistakes. And that's just me being honest. They could capitalize on it if people play ball with it. Because like I keep saying on previous uploads that I've been like talking about ticket prices. This is where AEW can capitalize massively. Yes, they released their tickets before WWE did on their UK tour. They did that perfectly. Perfectly placed. It kind of backfired WWE's plans, because I tell you one thing. One thing that I was really surprised at with WWE, to say how much they care about the European market to cash in and all that lot, that now they're attacking their own American fans with the ticket prices. I saw a guy's video on TikTok today. He was explaining about premium seats, the likes of Money in the Bank, is getting ridiculous. Now, this is where AEW can capitalize. There's only a limited amount of people that can actually afford shit like this. But yes, Ticketmaster may sweeten the blow for WWE or any event by spreading the cost. But it's not that worth spreading, if you know what I mean. I can understand if you're buying for one person. Yes, I can understand if you're buying for one person. But then all the booking fees, etc. like that on top are ridiculous. But if there's 2 of you, then 3 of you, then 4 of you, then it multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. This is where AEW can capitalize on the market and see, okay, that's what WWE's charging. Oh, we're going to charge cheaper. Now, it's bad enough that when WWE think they can literally host shows at the same state or same area as AEW. They're trying to capitalize on what AEW are doing, but they're doing it the wrong way about it. If they were that smart, TKO would have charged cheaper than WWE. I mean, AEW, sorry. They should have charged cheaper. But no, they decided to charge more than AEW. I'm not being funny, but I look at WWE now. I look at them as more of a corporate company than they've ever been. And I keep saying it on many, many uploads. that they are literally trying to prize out the fans, and which put them there. Which, if the way the booking and that lot stands, don't get me wrong, I look at what SmackDown did last week. That was my favourite SmackDown so far since obviously the likes of before WrestleMania. It takes them that long to put a good show on. Right? It takes them that long to put a good show on, where you start with a build of something, which could last or could not last. You know, I was really surprised when WWE literally made the bloodline last as long as they did. And it worked in their favour. But what I'm getting at is, though, guys, that AEW are benefiting from WWE's mistakes. You know? Even though AEW, such as Will Ospreay, opened his mouth and turned around and said his opinion. Right? You had no end of people siding with WWE, granted. But the catch is, you may be siding with their product, but you won't be siding with them for long if they keep pricing you out of the fans and then AEW keep charging cheaper than theirs. I'm hoping at some point, right? It's only coffee, guys, by the way. I need it. I want AEW to release their tickets after WWE. If they ever do, like, All In again next year, I'm hoping WWE don't decide, oh, wait a minute, we'll do a PLE in the UK. Out of the blue. Like they've done it before. Like when they did Money in the Bank, that was out of the blue. Out of the blue, they were doing Monday Night Raws and SmackDowns and everything. Again, in the United Kingdom, like they used to. You know, like out of the blue, they did a UK tour in the summer, but it backfired on them because they released their tickets afterwards and think they can charge more. Because then if they think they can charge more, if people were actual real wrestling fans, not just tribalism towards WWE, they'll look at their price and tell them, nah, I won't go there, I'll go to the other company because they're cheaper. I know it's in London, but nothing in London's cheaper. You know, I would literally say this to the likes of AEW. If you are watching this, I'm not saying it because I'm where I live in Nottingham. I'm saying this as an example. Right, you want to do your PLEs, pay-per-view, sorry. You've done All In at Wembley twice. It's going to be the third time next year, back at Wembley. Right, because you couldn't get Wembley, but you've done something nice for the fans. The thing is, the massive uproar, what baffled me was that people weren't listening to what I was saying. I think I said it on TikTok. I said it in a video. When he said about All In not going to London, there was a massive uproar. But as soon as he was saying, but we may be doing something, he worded it in a way that clicked in my mind, thinking he's doing a pay-per-view, different pay-per-view in London around the same time. He'll jumble or think of something new and fresh. And sure enough, I was right. Forbidden Door, I was blown away with that. You know, when I actually saw that, I was literally, no bullshit to you, when I saw the dates when that was, well, I got into Wembley, I sat down and thinking, okay, if the rumours and speculations that AEW is doing smaller venues, he's going to be booking the O2. And people were thinking to me, like, over social media when I was talking, whilst I was waiting for All In to come on and start, people literally were saying to me in messages, you are barking mad. You will never get the O2 because it's WWE turf. And I'm thinking, literally, I've proven people wrong. I was right. So this is where he could benefit. Because when leaks went out, there's no talk about it at all. which was amazing. Because the way people interacted with people. Oh, which venue is it going to be? Which is this? And I was like, it's the O2. I was stubborn and adamant it was at the O2. So I literally booked whilst I was at Wembley. When I saw the date being leaked, I was literally looking at hotels nearest I could get in price range for near the O2. Sure enough, I got Woolwich. I know that's about half an hour away from the O2, but it's in my price range at the time. And obviously, I can't pay. I have to pay that before August. Everyone wanted up front and non-refundable, which was the biggest catch because it's annoying. That's the only beneficial one that I saw. I literally got 2 nights towards, obviously, mine and my mate's Paddy's. 2 nights, 180 quid for 2 nights in Woolwich. Can't complain. And it's in London. You know, we don't know what else we got planned. Obviously, you'll see in the vlog. You know, but end of the day, that's what I mean. So I feel like the way they should do things from now on, that if there's a backlash towards tickets being towards WWE, I literally feel like, in a way, why on earth does AEW have to wait till WWE's done the UK tour? This was the last one. And literally release tickets as soon as that tour was done. That's what I had a feeling was going to happen. I've got a feeling that's got to happen. And yet, when AEW's already released their tickets, WWE randomly released their tickets, there's backlash. And yet, I'm hoping these people that gave WWE backlash a lot of stick for it. You know, I've seen no end of videos. I've mentioned it countless times already on videos. But this is where AEW can benefit from it. Because they could literally go, we've still got a show in London. I quite find it amazing that, considering AEW is the lower tier, people classes that lower tier wrestling, right? I'm not seeing not one backlash at all towards AEW ticket pricing. Never. You know? That just shows you how much people do actually admire and respect the likes of Tony Khan, what he's doing with AEW. As well as, obviously, the Young Bucks. As well as Kenny Omega. You know? Obviously, they've had their hiccups over the years. Granted, they've not had a great road since 2019. I'll be honest with you. But they're on their demise. They're on the right path now. They've got good storylines going off. What makes sense. They're making feuds look worthwhile. You know, I'm looking for... They're making tournaments look worthwhile. And yet, they've got Jon Moxley as their champion. That's not me knocking Jon Moxley being the champion. That just proves to me that they don't need a main belt. They've gone the alternative route to literally keep your mind off that belt, but defend it as and when. Like last week on Beach Break. You had Jon Moxley versus Samoa Joe. Good match. The ending, somewhat, I was like, oh, okay, Gabe Kidd's got involved. Wasn't expecting that. Is he part of the Death Riders now? But at least one thing, they're keeping it fresh. You know, there's different twists and turns and different stories. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing a Forbidden Door, Gabe Kidd versus Samoa Joe. You know, that could be building something towards that. I'm hoping they don't put it on Forbidden Door. I'm hoping they don't do it on Summer Blockbuster. I hope they don't do it all in. I hope they build something between him and Gabe Kidd. Because I wouldn't mind the likes of Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega, too. But then again, I want Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega 3. So I can't win there. I won't mind the likes of Zack Sabre Jr. versus Nigel McGuinness, because Nigel McGuinness occasionally pops out of retirement. Look at what he's got at Double or Nothing. Getting people eyes on the product is one thing. I feel like in a way, whatever they do in social media wise, they're benefiting from it. Right? Because you are promoting the company for the company to promote. I'm promoting them right now. I'm promoting the company. Just by doing this video alone. Because it's word of mouth. I know there's posters. I know there's storylines going off. But end of the day, right? If a wrestler like Will Ospreay can shoot his shit, say his shit, what he wants to say about his piece, about his opinion towards professional wrestling. And how can you defend a company that WWE are making mistakes on? I'm just really being honest with you. I feel like AEW could capitalize on this a lot more than people realize. I want them for once, when they do another show in the UK or wherever they do, release tickets before WWE release theirs. Same example for All In. If there's rumours and speculations they're doing NXT in the same state, I feel like if WWE release their tickets, and then obviously this is just an example. I'm not saying they're already out or not out, if you know what I mean. I think AEW should look at their ticket prices and go, yeah, we'll make them $20 cheaper or £20 cheaper. Just an example. For a lot of people, that doesn't sound a lot. But if you've got a family of 5, you're saving $100 or pounds or whatever currency it is transferred to. That's where they can capitalize on where the likes of WWE are making these mistakes. Like, at the moment, I feel like they're making so many mistakes in their weekly product, right? Hopefully it's got the traction going forward, but I feel like AEW can benefit a lot from this. From what WWE's got in their storylines, which a lot of things didn't make sense recently. A prime example. You put a random women's tag team match together, okay, then fair enough, and then Julian's separated from that tag team. You could have used those two that you've built up, Roxanne Perez and Julian, together as a tag team. You could have built something from that. The way you're doing certain things in WWE grinds my gears. And that's just me being honest. That's why I looked at other companies, to fill in the void that I'm not happy with one company. That's why I literally look at AEW. I've watched that religiously since 2019 from the start. Yeah, I've talked with the rough with the smooth of that company. Although, I feel like within the last year or two, a lot of the ideas has worked. A lot of the storylines has worked, because I feel like the reason why it's worked is because the wrestlers are making an effort themselves. And that's a bold statement from me. Because I could see what they want to do and want to achieve, and they are achieving it really well. You got the likes of Mercedes Moné doing phenomenal for the company. She's elevating the women's division, even though, yes, she's the forefront. But you're wondering, when's she going to lose a belt? Who's she going to lose it to? But she's elevating the women's division. Same with Toni Storm. To say that people say there's no long storylines, there's no long build and everything. Look at Toni Storm. Prime example, Mariah May. I'm hoping Mina versus Tony Storm versus Mariah May will actually happen. That'll be a giant FU to the people that are actually thinking Mariah May is going to WWE. You know, I'm sick of seeing that reported every WWE this. That's why I feel like when I look at the way things are doing at the moment, I literally see a lot of resurgence towards AEW. And it's crazy to think. This was the company, right? Invested so much time and effort to get the likes of CM Punk in the company, granted. Cody Rhodes was in the company, granted. They lost the two big players of professional wrestling of the time period. You know, even though Cody Rhodes was the forefront of the fucking, what do you call it, of the brand at one point. You know, one thing I never get is how much people badmouth AEW, yet they always speak about certain wrestlers in AEW they won't mind in WWE. And yet, if you badmouth the company, how would you know about these wrestlers? Answer me that one. How would you know about MJF? Maxwell Jacob Freedom. Hangman Adam Page. How would you know about Sammy Guevara? How would you know about Darby Allin? How would you know about certain ones? You must have watched the product to know about these professional wrestlers. But like I'm getting at is, this is what I love, right, about professional wrestling at the moment. WWE has literally made household names. They've made household names like John Cena, the likes of Seth Rollins, the likes of Roman Reigns, the likes of XXXXX. Now people will talk about Jacob Fatu the same light as Roman Reigns, and that's bold statement. But it's true. But you've got to look at the bigger picture. Right? These are household names that people keep talking about. You know, there's other household names. I've just used those as examples. But you look at the household names that AEW's built up. You know? Will Ospreay. Yeah, Will Ospreay was synonymous, on wrestling, like through New Japan and Brit scene and everything. He was always across the Brit minds. Brit scene's minds, as you might want to say. No disrespect to Gabe Kidd, I know him and I respect him. But did I think he'll be a household name that people are talking about right now? If AEW didn't elevate them. You know, I know he's with New Japan, but in a matter of speaking. I tell you what, that coffee's fucking good. You know? You look at the amount of names that they've actually got. Right? And people always go to the same old shit. It's full of ex-WWE stars. No, they've used those WWE stars to elevate the next level of next crop of young guys. You know? Look at Powerhouse Hobbs. He's an example. This is where AEW are benefiting from it. The leader of that Ops faction. Right? They've got Samoa Joe. They're elevating Powerhouse Hobbs to the next level. You know? Death Riders. Right? Yeah, they're former WWE guys and one woman that I keep butchering her name. I'm not even attempting it. You look like John Moxley being the leader of it. You got Pac, I don't know where he's disappeared to, but then all of a sudden you put a new face in. You've got Gabe Kidd as a new face. You know? I find it interesting. People dubbed it as the NWO when it first started. Yes, I could see the comparison, don't get me wrong. But I feel like it's working in their favour. You know? Where sort of storylines you wouldn't get away with in WWE this day and age, that I feel like this is the ruthless aggression era of what WWE was. You know, this was post-Attitude Era. You know? when I mentioned about the women's division, like when I said about Mercedes Moné elevating the women to the next level, Chris Statlander has done well. You got Sky Blue that's doing well. You got the likes of Julie Hart doing well, etc., etc., etc. You know, there's so many big names in that company now because of these people that have come in the company to elevate these young stars. You know? That's just me being honest. Why do you think people respect the likes of Darby Allin? Congratulations, by the way, when I speak about Darby Allin climbing Mount Everest, gone to the top. All I can say is sod that walking in, literally in the cold. That's what I mean. I look at the way AEW is at the moment. They're capitalising where WWE are making mistakes. The only focus point is the reason why they're putting women on the focal point and main events and all that lot. Because they want people to invest in the women because they've got a PLE directed at the women. You know? That's why the women are getting full front at the moment. As soon as that's been and gone, disappears. You know? They don't care about the women's tag team division. It's living proof of that. Like I've already mentioned, you split up a good tag team there from last week's Monday Night Raw. You are not consistent. You know, you stop, change. It's taken me a while to enjoy a WWE show, and that was SmackDown last Friday night SmackDown. When I've enjoyed technically what AEW has to offer. You know, they bring in legends occasionally as managers as well, which I do like. You know, the risk they are actually taking to do certain things. You know, but one thing that really baffles me, what really baffles me about just tribalism when it comes to WWE, right? This is not me being harsh or anything, but you were backing these wrestlers, these former guys, was in your company. The amount of times I've seen videos like, say, or John Moxley's going back to as Dean Ambrose soon. When people don't know the facts. When their contract is up, fucking just say 2027 and still to say that. You know, people were talking about the likes of Mariah May going to WWE, like I've mentioned. The thing is with Mariah May is, and always will be, I find that interesting. The amount of people are talking about Mariah May going to WWE. It's because it falls suit towards, obviously, with the other people that have gone to WWE. They're just catching on the bandwagon. I'm almost seeing my moustache then. But that's what I mean. It's like Mariah May. No one would have heard of Mariah May's name if AEW didn't elevate her to the championship or elevate her to the way that is. But if WWE fans want her so bad, how would you know about her if you don't watch AEW? Or are you scared to admit on social media that you watch AEW? I'm not scared to admit it. You know, the amount of women that have actually got in that, they get it right with the women's divisions. You know? I'm glad that Willow Nightingale, she'd re-signed with the company till another 3 years. I'm glad they kept hold of her. She's amazing what she does. You know? But this is where I feel like AEW are benefiting from WWE's mistakes. They're getting the women's division correctly. Intercontinental Championship, or their version of it, with Okada winning it, wearing it, or whatever it is. That belt, I feel like he never defends it. But, yeah. The tag team division is working. You know? Yeah, you got Hurt Syndicate, that are currently the tag team titles holders. You're elevating these young stars that you never thought in a million years would be taking on the likes of Bobby Lashley and what's his name? Shelton Benjamin. You never thought. I do apologise. But you never thought in a million years you would see these guys taking on young talent the way they are. You know, because at the end of the day, when you technically, we get dream matches after dream matches, you know, over the years of AEW. You see the likes of the Young Bucks having a match, yeah, with young talent. You never thought. This is what I mean. The people that made themselves a household name are taking on young talent. You know? Who would have thought the likes of Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page made a tournament worthwhile watching? You know? People used to criticise AEW, right, for the amount of tournaments. When Tony Khan comes on the screen making an announcement, oh, I've got a tournament. The Own Art tournament, no bullshit here, has been getting better and better and better since it started every year. You know? And I tell you one thing. The only tournament that WWE's got at the moment is the qualifying matches towards being in Money in the Bank. Don't get me wrong, they started off good. I'm hoping they continue tonight. But it just baffles me that people can literally sit there and don't realise that AEW can benefit from whatever you say, whatever you do. You know? To say one company says they appreciate the European market and everything like that. If you appreciated us that much, why are you charging so much? Yes, everything does go up in price. We all know that. As wrestling fans, we know that. We suffer that. But you've got to think, AEW could really capitalise on what you've just done. You've released your tickets. Okay, then if there's so many tickets left, they'll lower the price. It wouldn't surprise me if, right now that Tony Khan is releasing more tickets for Forbidden Door. That's where I feel like anything that AEW can benefit from. And see if WWE's doing a show where they're doing a show, and when WWE release their tickets from now on, AEW should release their tickets and cheaper. You know? To benefit the wrestling fandom. You know? I showed you on TikTok, it's weird to think how cheap the independent shows once was. You know, in 2012, I was front row. Even though I got half price ticket because of Shawn Michaels' fiasco with 1PW back in the day. I got scammed a lot of money, but they were offering people who ever bought tickets for that show can go to that show half price, so I got it for £6. It was a no-brainer. £6, that's nothing. You know? And I feel like when I look at this, right, with AEW, they deliver a lot more daring stuff. They don't water them down. They don't do the cut, copy, and paste scenario. And that's just me being honest. Right? That is me being honest with you. They do not do the cut, copy, and paste scenario. They don't water them down. They have more free reign. You can tell they're enjoying working for the company. Tony Khan treats them with a lot more respect. I've seen it on Maven's when he snuck backstage. Snuck backstage sort of thing. You know? We get matches that we never thought we'd see. Did you thought in a million years we would see Zach Gowen back on the mainstream scene after how many years? You know, when we saw him in that match recently. Would you have thought you would see Mark Briscoe doing a singles run without his brother since he passed away? You know, I'm looking forward to seeing him versus Ricochet Double or Nothing stretcher match. I'm really looking forward to watching Double or Nothing. You know, it's one of my favourite pay-per-views. Obviously, apart from All In and obviously Forbidden Door. That's another one that, to be honest, all AEW pay-per-views deliver for me. But that's what I mean. It's just mental to think that AEW could benefit so much from WWE's mistakes. You know? They're so far ahead of their time. I feel like the worst thing is, because everyone looks to WWE as the be-all and end-all company, because they've been around a while, and that's just me being honest. You know? Oh, you're a wrestling fan. Oh, you have to watch WWE to get into wrestling. Fine. But there is more options in this world. You know, that's why I keep saying it. That I feel like WWE, alright, if they keep pricing out the fans, how much more money is it going to take that? I can understand if it was like a new company that was starting out, such as the likes of AEW, prime example, and they were charging what they were charging. But how could you invest into that company if you didn't know anything about them? If you know what I mean. A lot of people invested into All In 2018 before AEW started. A lot of people invested into that because WWE wasn't giving what the fans wanted at the time. They wanted an alternative, and it worked out that way. Then all of a sudden they got a TV deal, they got a game out, etc., etc., etc. They literally counted at how many eggs in one basket and literally exploded all over the market faster than I could sneeze. That's metaphorical speaking. But if you know what I mean, they went full on with it. Yeah, the game may have been a flop to some people. I didn't mind playing it, but I didn't play it constantly. You know, it was its own downfall. You know, because obviously with it being delayed and so on, that was a massive hit to their pocket. But at least one thing they're picking up where they sort of learn from their mistakes. You know, they've even got a mobile game out. I've never played it. You know, that's just me being honest. But they're looking to right from the wrong what they're doing. You know, this year was the best move they've ever done. Move to smaller venues because it stopped people hindering the product as much as not watching the product. You know, because people were watching the amount of ticket sales were happening, the amount of what you call it, what's going on beyond what's happening in the ring. You know, how many people was in attendance? The people who love to tribalism, literally love to troll. They did the same thing with TNA back in the day. The only thing, the real reason why I feel like this has benefited TNA, that partnership with WWE, they've only benefited from it because they've literally got ticket sales, got bigger venues, etc., etc., etc. But the only problem is, have you upset the diehard fans that have been with you from the beginning? I've not seen anyone sort of, in a way, talk about TNA as much as they once did back when I first started on YouTube. You know, and that's saying something. You know, but when I look at the bigger spectrum of it, right, I look at AEW. I keep saying this. They are picking up where WWE are making mistakes. And I'm glad they're doing that. Because that's what they're all about. You know, being the alternative. You know, when people criticise, this is where it annoys me. When people try to find something to criticise about AEW, and yet they've never been in a ring themselves. I'm not saying this in a bad light, don't get me wrong. But they want to criticise a wrestler that doesn't use a certain move, could be a common move to someone else's finisher. You know, I had to do a fucking discussion about this on TikTok a few months ago. You know? I've mentioned Will Ospreay numerous of times in this video because obviously I respect the guy for what he does and what he stands for. You know, with his workload towards AEW. Isn't demanding as much as WWE would give off. Or the thing is though, right, I'll just say this. If WWE signed Will Ospreay, which brand would he go? They'll probably make him the poster boy of NXT. You know, and that's just me being honest. So, what's the difference? You know, he's technically this year's poster. He's currently AEW's poster boy. I'll say this, being honest with you. You know, And that's me being honest. I'm glad they made him the poster boy of the company. You know, they needed that face of that company. They tried it with, obviously, Cody Rhodes when he was obviously involved backstage and everything like that. It was awesome, don't get me wrong. Why do you think so many fans have backed him when he went back to WWE? Because that's where a lot of people literally left AEW to watch WWE once again. Because they followed Cody. That's how it all started, and that's just me being honest. Then CM Punk, and then people because got this started. But they stood the ground for what they're meaningful. Yeah, they showed the footage of backstage of Wembley. But they've recovered from the mistakes. They have made mistakes that people don't like to talk about or repeat or something on those lines that you can literally say, okay, the mistakes that... The amount of mistakes... I would say this, I'll be honest with you. The amount of mistakes that AEW did from the start, yes, they've made so many mistakes. But they were teething problems, which they've learned from, and now they're elevating more faces of the company than before people realise. You know, that's why it becomes household names. Believe it or not. But the reason why they're using Will Ospreay as a poster boy I feel like they're using him as a poster boy for the company because the way he is. The way he can mature people. The work with, like... I feel like in a way, sometimes I feel like he's booking the females. And he's working with the females. He gives so much to professional wrestling. You know, he's got that much dedication. And people say, oh, why didn't he go WWE then? He didn't want to move to America. That's one reason. And he had a fucking young family. That's another reason. You know the dedication he gives? He literally travels to Gatwick or Heathrow, whichever plane. Travels to the show by plane. Goes to the hotel and everything. Get showered and all that lot. Get warmed up for the match and everything. Get something to eat in the meantime. Then after the show, leaves the show. Goes to the airport. Travels back home. By Thursday night, he's back home. That's dedication. Just say, for like, if he's just on Dynamite and Collision. Yes, I know they record Collision, but that's 4 hours work. Then all that travelling. He's more... the reason why he's the poster boy, because he's that dedicated to do what he does. You know, I'm not saying all wrestlers are like that, but the workload and the respect he gets. Imagine how he would have felt if he went to the WWE. You know, I know he won't. This is me being honest. He doesn't like the way they do things. And it's not because he's working with AEW. It's just me being honest with you. He doesn't like how they work. So, with Will Ospreay, the name is synonymous in wrestling. Right? For him to build up from where he's become in the space of me knowing him near enough 10 years. Yes, I know Will Ospreay. Not personally, but I've been to shows. I've shown you my poster collection on TikTok. It's where I made friends with him, and obviously going to shows. He respects me and respects my point of view. Hey, even he checked out my video when I was talking about Will Ospreay. I know he checked it because I saw his username on the algorithm. And that's me being honest. And I respect the ground he walks on. You know, if he's got time to watch my stuff. But weirdly enough, when I think I put that video out, he'd probably be watching it on the plane coming home. That's how dedicated he is to his fans. How much he respects his fans. Why do you think he built up the way his business as Will Ospreay? You know? And for Will Ospreay to go AEW and doing what he's doing, I've not picked one freaking bad match he's been in. You know? And that's not me just saying it as an AEW fan. That's me respecting Will. So you look at these... household names in 2005. You could list them down below. That first names come to mind when you think of AEW. List them down below if you've got this far in the video. I can assure you, you'd be surprised. Okay, 2019. You mentioned how many wrestlers you can remember from that. 2020. 2021. 2023. 2024. And so on. Name them. And if you are literally sitting with me this long, I know it's a long video, I do apologise. But WWE could literally pick up from where they left off, granted. But the catch is, AEW can literally pick up from them. AEW can pick up from WWE's mistakes in so many ways. And which they are delivering that. You know? I feel like with the free reviews, the TV specials, whatever you want to class it as, they're delivering. I'm glad they don't put X amount of pay-per-views per year. I'm glad they don't, because it's not easy on the wallet. I can assure you I pay for all the pay-per-views. But that's what I mean. AEW, when people say, they're delivering shit numbers, who cares about numbers this day and age? You know? If there weren't that many people watching AEW, this is a prime example. I feel like this was a true test and testament. That people watching Collision went to X or Twitter and complained about that disruption of the broadcast. Alright? From the East Coast to the West Coast. They complained about it, didn't they? That proves how many people are actually watching. And I feel like that was technically a marketing ploy to see how many people were actually watching. You know? But it baffles me that people can sit and literally try and belittle AEW to AEW fans when they literally can't. They just find the same shit that people have been repeating since 2019. I would say 2021. You know? If it wasn't for the likes of AEW, you wouldn't have CM Punk back in wrestling. And that's a fact. You know? AEW made Cody Rhodes a household name. Even though, yeah, fair enough, he made himself a household name back on the indies when he was touring the indies. It's very rare you see someone go back on the indies to build themselves a household name and go back to WWE. And that's just me being honest. But he didn't go straight back to WWE. He set his own company called AEW with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and Tony Khan's money, granted. But the one thing that really baffles me when people try and say it to me, but Tony Khan's a billionaire's son. I'm not being funny, so was Vince McMahon. But I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. Vince Sr. sold it to his son, right? I feel like when I look at the way WWE is at the moment, I know it's weird to say it, but my gosh, WWE missed Vince McMahon. Minus what's actually happened, minus what people assume what happens until proven guilty. I always say that, until proven guilty, to give them the benefit of the doubt. But my God, how much does the WWE actually really miss Vince? And be honest with yourself. You know, TKO literally made that company too pricey to get into. I would say wrestling's easy to get into. Although, if you want to pay the price, imagine what it's going to be like when those kids are watching now of professional wrestling in the WWE. Now, this is not me mouthing WWE. Imagine what it's going to be in 10 years' time with the price. This is why I keep stressing I don't want a WrestleMania here in the United Kingdom. I won't mind a Double or Nothing here in the United Kingdom. You know, from AEW. I love All In, don't get me wrong. The first one had its teething problems, granted. It's the first ever one at Wembley. Second one went smoothly. I enjoyed that. I even watched both of them back to back. You know, when I got back home, I watched it on pay-per-view through Thriller, or Fight TV as it was known as then. I'll be doing the same for Forbidden Door. After when I've edited my vlog, I'll be watching back. You know, because at the end of the day, I love what AEW offers to the fans. You know, but I tell you one thing though, guys. They really, really have upped their game. And I can't stress you enough how much they've upped their game recently. You know, don't let that TV fiasco... Damn, I'm out of coffee. It proves how long I've been on this one. But it just... People need to open their eyes more. And realise what AEW has to offer. And I've saw a lot of people now seeing, like, on TikTok videos that people like asking for recommendations for wrestling to watch. You know, is it to me they're just doing it for clout? No. You can tell they're in a fandom because they want to express and feel towards other companies. I've seen that more happen within the last 5 months, I would say, on TikTok. Or more or less, a lot more on the likes of the grounds from WrestleMania. And I love the fact they've actually made an effort to check out the company and they actually like it. Then they get hate for it. Why? When someone's made a recommendation to watch AEW or to watch a pay-per-view or to watch everything. You know? These guys, I tell you one thing, are way overlooked. To the point where they are that way overlooked to the point where people do check them out and know these names. That have been... You look at Mina. No one heard of her until she was in AEW. Hayley Cameron. You know? She's got the assets, yeah. She flaunts that, yeah. But she's got the comedy side to her. She's entertaining. That's what it's all about. Entertainment. You know? But they make the feuds feel like they are real feuds. You can't say you look at the likes of Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page. That was built up like a real feud. They literally really despise each other. They go to the town where they make it believable to the point where you think they're going to kill each other. Which, if you have not been watching Dynamite, you won't know that. And I tell you one thing, I love how they do the countdown shows. I love watching that before a pay-per-view that AEW puts out. Because it builds the story that you've been building up week by week. And they put it in this perspective like it's a movie. It's a blockbuster. It's cinema. You know? You look at the likes of Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter. That's another prime example. Look how that's been built up. You made these... It proves the two people that paid the most are elevating the company. Jamie Hayter, I hope she wins. Hope Will Ospreay wins. So they can literally go into All In for their title matches and win those titles and take them to Forbidden Door as champions. I'm hoping that actually happens. I really do, guys. I can't stress you enough. Because I hope they go into as champions towards the PLEs, or the pay-per-view, sorry, and show the world what they really can do. And I can't stress you enough how great it is to witness another company that is thriving at the moment. You know, job well done, AEW. You know, you're doing a fantastic job for what you're doing. I'm really surprised anyone's listened this far to me. But obviously I love all wrestling. Granted. I love all wrestling, what I want to watch and so on. I'll give you my thoughts and opinions towards it. You know, but my highlight of my week is watching Dynamite at the moment. even though, yes, I watch WWE's weekly products, I'm hoping Raw's good tonight. I will give you my honest take on it. But anyway, guys, I'm off. I know I've rambled on too long. But anyway, obviously keep subscribing, keep hitting that bell icon. Until next time, catch you guys soon.